I'm 71 years old. I know that because my birthday was last week and my children reminded me, though I almost forgot. And when I think about it, I realize I've been counting the years more than I've been living them. That's the truth I can't shake. Time always felt fast. Life always felt empty. And it's taken decades for me to see why. These days I wake early, often before anyone else in the house is stirring. I sit at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, the steam curling slowly into the air. The house is quiet in a way that makes you aware of every ticking clock. I look around and I notice small things, the worn edge of the table, the faint sunlight through the blinds, the old photo of my wife when we were young, smiling in a way that I can barely remember. I think about the choices I made. I think about the things I never said. I think about the hours I didn't notice slipping away. When I was 21, I moved to the city for work. I wanted to make something of myself, to do something I could point to and say, "This is mine." I got a job in an office, filing papers, organizing accounts, answering phones. It was respectable, steady. I liked that people relied on me. I liked that I could tick off the days and see progress in numbers, not feelings. I thought I was building a foundation. I thought I was being responsible. I dated a little, but never too seriously. I worried too much about appearances, about whether I was choosing the right path. I wanted to succeed, to be seen as capable, not messy or uncertain. I wanted approval, even from people I didn't really care about. At the time, it all seemed logical. It seemed safe. By the time I was 30, I had a family. A wife who was gentle, patient, and kind in a way that I didn't fully appreciate. Children came soon after. I was proud. I was busy. I worked long hours. I thought I was providing. I thought that was enough. But time didn't wait for me to notice. It didn't pause while I was climbing the ladder or trying to keep everything in order. The birthdays came and went. The holidays became routine. I spent evenings with paperwork, with work calls, with small tasks that seemed urgent. And I kept telling myself there will be time later. I missed school recitals. I missed first steps. I missed conversations with my wife that should have been longer, deeper, more honest. I assumed that time was infinite, that the important moments could wait. And that's why life felt empty, because I was always postponing the very things that mattered. The years piled up quietly. At 40, I realized my children were growing up fast. I remembered a moment when my youngest tried to show me a drawing, and I was too busy to look. I gave a quick smile and nodded, and in the back of my mind I thought, I'll see it later. That later never came the way I imagined. By 50, I had promotions, recognition, savings, and a life that looked perfect from the outside. Yet inside, there was a hollowness I didn't understand. I felt tired, more tired than I expected. I had forgotten how to be present, how to sit quietly without thinking of the next task, the next responsibility. Conversations were practical, polite, surface level. Emotions were managed and measured. Life was safe, yes, but also barren. I remember my wife once asked me, quietly, "Do you remember the first time we danced?" We were sitting at the kitchen table, just the two of us. I smiled and said, "Of course." But I didn't. I had to search my mind for it, and it came up like a faint echo. She looked at me, her eyes patient, and said nothing more, but I could feel the distance that had grown over decades. Small choices, small delays, small prioritizations had created a quiet erosion. Then, 10 years ago, my father died. He was 85. I went to his funeral and watched my mother cry quietly. And in that stillness, something hit me. Time doesn't wait, and life doesn't give you second chances. Everything I had put off, every meaningful conversation postponed, every touch, every presence had been silently slipping through my fingers. I understood, finally, that the emptiness I had felt for decades was a consequence of my choices to prioritize productivity, duty, and approval over presence and connection. There are things that cannot be fixed. I cannot go back and hold my children longer when they were small. I cannot tell my wife now how deeply I loved her when she needed to hear it. I cannot relive the quiet evenings, the small moments, the laughter that went unnoticed. The past is gone, and even with hindsight, there's no way to retrieve it. I look at my own hands now. They are lined, knotted, and trembling slightly. I notice the fading of strength, the slowing of reflexes, the subtle weight of age pressing down. And I know there isn't enough time left to undo the consequences of decades of absence. I can choose to be present in the remaining hours, yes, but I cannot reclaim what has been lost. If I could speak to someone younger, I would not tell them to chase success or wealth. I would not hand down advice about efficiency or ambition. I would say this: notice the small moments. Notice the people in front of you. Sit with them, even when it feels inconvenient. Listen, even when you are tired. Hold, even when you are busy. Because the hours, the days, the years, they will move faster than you think, and life has a way of quietly slipping away when you are distracted by what seems urgent. I remember my grandchildren visiting last week. They laughed, they played, and for a moment I felt something I haven't felt in decades, a fullness that comes from simply being there. And I held that feeling gently, knowing it was fragile. I can't give them the years I didn't give my own children, but I can be here now, fully. Even so, there's a melancholy that lingers. Time has a sharp edge, even when you recognize it late. Emptiness cannot be completely filled once it has taken root. But I can carry gratitude for what remains. I can carry love in the moments I have left. That is all. If this meant something to you, I hope you pause with it. Notice what you might be postponing. Feel what you might be missing. Don't wait for a dramatic moment or a life-altering event to tell someone you care. There may not be one. I will sit here a little longer, listening to the quiet of my house, watching the sunlight shift across the table, remembering, regretting, and yet still breathing. Time has been fast. Life has been empty at times. But for these remaining moments, I can at least try to be awake. And that is enough.